forgiveness is a choice. But like that, and I often deal with people's triggers, as I call it, the red mist. They've literally gone from zero to outcome, which brings a consequence. But when we actually choose to take out something and go, am I holding on to it? Am I going to let it go? How is it serving me? And honestly, forgiveness is the key to letting things go. Now, can we justify why we choose to hold on to things? Absolutely. But a little bit of journaling and having a look at what you're holding on to is a nice bit of reflective work.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Welcome to today's episode of When You Choose You podcast. We have a very dear friend of mine. I could say already dear. I don't know, we didn't meet many times, but it was like first time when I met Elaine was like, oh wow, so homey. That's the feeling of homey. So for me, Elaine is a lady who looks incredibly well.
Thank you.
I won't say the age, but definitely I was in a bit of a shock when I heard. Okay. So, business owner, thriving, as far as I can see from where I stand, and a model for me.
Thank you.
So I would say probably where I want to be.
And I will be with you all the way.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for going beyond your comfort zone, because I know it's not your comfort zone, but I hope I am able to make you comfortable, and I know people are in for a treat.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely thrilled. And yes, this year my intentions were set on my business to work on it, not just in it, and to, as a business coach myself, stretch outside my comfort zone. So yeah, excited to be here. Nervous as well, but I know you're going to guide me all the way through it. So thank you.
Beautiful. So tell us what you are doing, and actually who is the being who is doing the doing?
Okay, I suppose I started my business. It's Elaine Ryan Associates Limited, and there's a number of avenues. I probably would be best known as the HR consultant, but in honesty, HR is only one of the things we do, because everything is people-centered. So whether it's, I'm in the coaching arena 20 years now, so I'm an executive business coach. I'm a neurolinguistic programmer and new code and classic code. I do cognitive behavior therapy and just added breathwork coaching as well. So lifelong learner really is what I am. And it's all about having a toolkit that I can meet people where they're at, and really, the honor of facilitating someone's journey, say the caterpillar to the butterfly.
Yes.
So yeah, into the 18th year now in business, started when the boom went bang, which was my first test as a business coach. And, I come from a very mixed background. I did my leaving cert, will probably give away my age, in 84. So young doing my leaving cert, let me say. But back then it was it was recession. It was, literally Ireland was struggling. The majority of people I would have went to school with, if it was full fees in university and college at the time, or you got on a boat or on a plane.
Okay.
So I got on a boat, literally within 24 hours of making up my mind, my poor mother. And basically, we were taught from a very young age to have a good work ethic. And I thank my mom for that, because she's been my inspiration all my life. She's been, thankfully, a mom that never put obstacles in her way. Very much you can be whatever you want to be. Taught me what faith is. Very much opened up, I suppose, the opportunity for me to understand the beauty of having a personal relationship with the Lord. So my faith is my cornerstone in everything I do. And I definitely can see where the Lord has had his hand in my life, where, I came from school back then. It was career guidance was you were either, going to college, or you, as my career guidance teacher said to me, you will never amount to anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So obviously I've proven her wrong. And that's down to work ethic, faith, stepping out of comfort zones, and having the right people in my life from a very young age.
Okay, so many things, interesting things, leads me to so many questions. Let's stay with your being. What's special about Elaine?
I meet people where they're at, non-judgmental, have this discernment to see ability and growth in people and help facilitate that journey. And I suppose, especially when you're doing work like human resources, it's about resourcing people. So again, it's at the core of what I do and my team do. It's meeting people where they're at, helping business owners. So it's really, people are my passion. So whether it's HR, coaching, mentoring, training, because we do such a variety of things. I think when you operate out of a foundation of respect, openness, honesty, and collaboration, and just a non-judgment, it's amazing what opens up with regards to people's, they just respond to it, because we are living in a world that is so judgmental, and so much, social media has such an impact on people as well, and not always positive. And as an NLP coach, I've seen where people have had over their lives things spoken into their lives that have kept them stuck in self-limiting beliefs and are not sure how to go forward. So me as a person, if I can, I suppose, sow seeds of faith and hope and possibilities and dreams, I get to see that being fulfilled.
It's what I call myself being in the heart energy and heart space, because that's no place for being judgmental. And
and again, it goes back to my faith. Who am I to judge anyone? My principles and my faith are based on the Lord died on the cross for my sins. So who am I not to forgive, and who am I to judge? And I think when you operate out of the simplicity of faith, it keeps you anchored, it keeps your feet on the ground. And, I'm so privileged to be in a business that is going from strength to strength, but we work hard. And I've worked in various businesses, but I've always had that good work ethic that has served me well. And we treat our clients' businesses like our own. We give 100%. We're authentic and honest and direct. And it works.
You can't really be authentic without being direct, really.
Yeah. Well, especially in the HR arena as well, because, we work on people's businesses. We're very much work with a lot of family businesses. So you have that succession planning, first generation to second generation, maybe third. And if you're in leadership or owning a company and you're managing people, you've got to be aware of how you show up. And, what behaviors may serve you well in that role and may not. And our role is to make sure that people are working within the environment of the rules and regulations. Employment law in Ireland is tough. And it's making sure people are equipped to be able to do that role and enjoy doing that role. It's not for everyone.
Yes.
Being an employer, being a people manager, again, could be very challenging. You're dealing with different
personalities. I think it's the hardest part in the business, to be very honest. I only had glimpses of what that means. I had few hours and there a little bit of help, and I had to manage a human resource. But oh my God.
No, and I come from a background of managing teams. I had a team of 75 people at one point. And I think that's really what got me into the coaching arena as well, because I really needed to step back and see how I was showing up in that role, what served me well and my team well. It was very humbling, and I learned an awful lot about myself through my own coaching. And back then, you're talking over 20 years ago, it was the new thing. And because I got so much out of it, I actually went, studied in UL and did my diploma in business life coaching and brought it in as an initiative. Hence my journey began. And hence my dream of having my own business began from that as well, because I thought, okay, if I simply apply my work ethic to my own business and I work as hard for myself as I did anyone else, sure, what could happen? And, and again, I had the wisdom. Actually, I was doing pro bono coaching actually for my own financial advisor. And when I started up, he basically said to me, okay, I need my HR done, and can I now pay for that coaching? And that was my first client, who referred me to the next client, who referred me to next. But he actually encouraged me to get involved in networking. It was the BNI at the time in Ennis. And that just, I walked into a new family, basically.
Yes,
Still in contact with people from back then. And that taught me how to talk about my business, and even for me to really define what is it I am. how am I showing up and what do I want for my business? So with my coaching, it really did start shaping my business.
Mm-hmm.
So networking is, especially in Ireland, and all my business, thank God, and I am very grateful, is referral.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
So
very
in a
honoured.
world of social media, when we all fight for that bit of sharing and all that, you are the living proof that it can be done.
Yeah, it's relationships.
I always believe. So for me, that's the reality. Like that's what it's up to you. On social media, it's not up to you. That's how I see.
I like personal contact. I mean, I think we all came out of COVID, zoomed out of it, literally. I like meeting people. I like training, and even in our business, our philosophy is to work on site. And I suppose that's one of our unique selling points from the HR and business consultancy side. We're working on site. We are there. So people can reach you. You just, because when people hear HR, sometimes it doesn't bring up the best of reactions. Most people get suspicious. They get, oh my gosh, what's this about? Actually, I had a call yesterday from a team member of one of my new clients going, and who are you? And what's that about? And what does that mean? And you know what? I was absolutely delighted they engaged with me. I said, thank you for the call. Because I deliberately, when we do a memo, put in my contact details. And he goes, no, a few of us were talking, we wonder what it's about. So that's great now I know. So that, again, is the human connection. And it's, HR, as I said, is about resource people. So it is actually making yourself available. And it's also knowing when to signpost people. But what I love about what I do is we get to work with all different levels, all different environments. You could be in a medical device company, you could be in different factories, you could be in a retail shop, a pharmacy, a doctor's, a dentist, it could be anything. And so you're just learning so much about other industries as well. But it's such an honor.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so you said there a few times about the work ethic. And I have my 17 years of age son at home, and he took something from me positive. So he has a great work ethic.
Good.
God bless him.
It's where they learn it.
That. Yeah, exactly. But I see, and I was managing people who lack in work ethic. And I think it's because, from what I can gather, is parents are giving that back to the school. The schools are leaving that back to the parents. Something
falls down.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. We have, I'm interviewing and recruiting over 35 years. Again, I worked in the recruitment industry for 10. I still do a lot of recruitment for my clients, which I love because you're dealing with someone's potential career. It's just, again, it's just motivates me. Yeah. And I've been around to see a lot of different generations come through. I'm not even going to count. But, as parents, and it goes back to NLP, we influence everyone by the contents of our words and our behavior. So when we're a parent, and I have 2 daughters myself now that are in their 20s and thankfully good work ethics, if, our children learn from us, definitely. So our consistency, how we show up. And believe me, the older you get, the more they hold you accountable as well.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But again, with the busyness of life, and even the cost of living and more parents having to work longer hours and both parents, it's so difficult and that. But it's so important to carve out that time. And when I hire a lot of people coming to, be it out of school, out of college jobs. And that's what, as what we do with my clients, we put an onboarding program together in how to bring people into the workforce. And a lot of it is teaching people how to show up. And that's not just young people for the first time. That can be people with experience.
Yes, yeah.
But again, if you were treating probation period as a time to set people up for success, it starts at the from when they add to the interview process. I always say when you attract like-minded people, so a company knowing the vision, mission, and values which we help them establish, and you're putting that into ad, you automatically are attracting the right people into it. So right people, right seats, and it's setting them up for success. And then it's training.
Yes. I know you, just because I want to catch that idea there. You said about the values and the core values of companies. And as much as now it's more training done for the startups and
sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, this is my point.
Yeah.
I think it's still missing. I think the business owners and they don't see the necessity of stating clear those things, and then
it's clarity. It is clarity around as we say, the purpose of a role and the expectations of the role. And it is the communication, like I often say, HR is communication, common sense, cop on, and compliance.
I love that. Say that again.
It's communication, common sense, cop on, and compliance. All my
put
C's.
Them in the comments.
all my C's. And it's stating the obvious. So, it's having the job specification. So it's also managing expectations in the interview of what the actual practicalities of the role are. If it's shift work, if it's multitasking, if it's being trained in that. But when you're bringing someone into your company, and the more you have structure in place, and this is what we help people do, is keep it simple and effective, have structure, that the onboarding isn't when you have a structure in it, and we do, standard operating procedures around it and a checklist, and we have the stakeholders of who's doing what, you're getting the best out of the person. And if someone's choosing to come into your company that may have left another job, you want to set them up for success. So our role is to make sure that those mechanisms are in place, the accountability is in place, and reflective feedback is really important. So part of what we do is, a standard, we do HR induction training that covers all the policies, procedures, and what we expect from people if they're choosing to join a company. So there is accountability. The job spec, again, is another layer. The training, the cross-training, the signing up, and that no one can improve or change a behaviour if they're not made aware there's an issue. So my nightmare is when someone's coming up to the 6 months go, that person isn't actually working out. And I'm like, so can I see the notes? Can I see where the training was? Who's signed off on what? Was there reflective feedback? And they're like, no, we said nothing. As I often say to people, silence is not feedback. Mm-hmm. Now, you often very commonly go, sure, no one said nothing to me, it must be grand. So seeking feedback, even when you're in a role, is really important.
Why do you think is that tendency of keeping quiet? I see that it's quite common in Ireland. I'm coming from a completely the other side of when we talk and we say doesn't matter, we fight so much. I think we were oppressed for so long. Then when we could, we actually went on
Found the voice.
Exactly. I don't agree with that either. I think it's balance and finding the middle way.
It's a combination of things. Sometimes it is that cultural thing, sure, if I say nothing, I must be grand. And I deliberately say when I'm doing induction training, seek feedback. Also, if people only hear from the manager or when it's negative, people will not seek feedback. Given reflective feedback, where people have areas of growth, is really important how you frame it, because when you want to build confidence, you want to build self-esteem, you want to give knowledge, you want to give the toolkit. That is setting someone up for success. But if anytime you sit with them and it's negative, they're not going to invite opinion. Yeah. So it's having that balanced approach and knowing your communication style. Again, everything, we do a lot of conflict resolution. Everything comes down to communication, type of, style of, lack of, and that includes the nonverbal as well. So again, it's know what you want when you bring someone into your business, have the structure in place, and having simple systems helps you. Because if you're a business owner, you could have 20 jobs yourself and you're scrambling to get through everything. So again, utilize the teams, delegate, learn to delegate, and set yourself up for success. So we work an awful lot with business owners and managers and on their roles and remits, the value of time in line with the purpose of their jobs, in line with the business strategy. So we kind of put the jigsaw together to keep it simple and effective.
You come across like such a sensitive, sensible human being. How do you, I wanted to say put up, but how do you thrive in a environment that requires masculine energy? If you are with me?
Yes. Yeah. I suppose I've always worked in very male-dominated environments, and that I think, I've done a lot of work myself. I continue to do it. I'm a complete, I pray for wisdom daily. That's the first and foremost, keep my feet in the ground. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I surround myself with like-minded people, but I'm very good at, I have a good coach myself. I have a great counselor. So it's a combination of things, but it's also building your own self-esteem and self-worth and having that core foundation in yourself. I would always intend to speak I'm the person that has to have the difficult conversations when things aren't going according to plan. That's why people bring in an external. But we're into cross-training. And again, it's about being respectful and factual. My job isn't to judge. We end up dealing with some horrendous allegations at times. But again, you respect people no matter what side of the table they're sitting on, because again, my role is to elicit facts, not to judge. And it is important that people feel heard and respected. It's natural and fair justice. The day I don't get nervous doing something like that, it's the day I'll stop doing it, because that keeps me grounded as well. And we seek feedback ourselves. We can't improve our services or how we handle things. So you have to have the courage to check in and go, okay, how was that? And just, it's a collaboration. You work in partnership with, that's what we do. We work in partnership with our clients. At the end of the day, that's their business. And we can advise, and some choose to take it, some don't. But like that, we will always come from a place of respect.
Did you ever come across with a situation where you had to put the business down because and the contract or the collaboration because was crossing? I'm thankfully quite discerning, and I contract very well at the beginning of it, because I'm not for everyone. And I may not be the right coach for them, the HR consultant and that. And it's having that courage to go, maybe I'm not for you as well. But also it's contracting well at the beginning, and definitely because my business is based on my faith and my core values. That may not be for everyone, but if it's a thing I start working with a company and that isn't aligned, I will make the decision that we're not the best fit for them at that time. Also, we have to be very aware of behaviors, and there are behaviors you just cannot enable. Again, we're all about psychological safety. We do a lot of training in the arena of the code of practice, the bullying, harassment and sexual harassment. Ireland is ranked about 7th in Europe when it comes to bullying, harassment and sexual harassment in the workplace. So for me, respect, psychological safety, no matter what seat you sit on, is really, really important. And that's what we want to bring into place as well. And that is an ongoing piece of work. And again, that comes down to the foundational training we do, and with all the team at every level, is that code of practice, the appropriate behavior training workshop that we do, because behaviors can be very learned and they may not feel inappropriate to the person, but in a work environment, they're inappropriate. So we do a lot of work around boundaries, triggers, there's no boundaries, you have a lot more triggers going off. And we do a lot of work around team and management practices, how people contract with each other to show up, and working towards conflict, being able to have a healthy conversation and make someone aware, do you know what you said there or how you did it didn't sit with me, and working through it as colleagues. Yes.
And it's
unfortunately, it's so common to see that any contradictory conversation, is looked at as an argument and as something negative.
Absolutely. And I say it all the time, bring back the good old days of debating where we liked each other at the end of a conversation. And what I liked about the code of practice that was updated in legislation a few years back is it not only states what bullying is, and which is inappropriate behavior, whether it's direct, indirect, verbal, physical, otherwise directed to one or more persons in the workplace, but it's also what it's not. And you are allowed to manage. You're allowed to make decisions based on performance. You're allowed to give reflective feedback. You're allowed to have a difference of opinion. And again, when we springboard from a foundation of respect within and create that safe culture in the work environment, people can have those conversations.
Yes.
Because if you're spending 40, 50 hours a week at times with people, we're human. I always bring it by training, never make a decision when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, the halt. And for a lot of us, we're double H hormones. So, our state can be affected. Like, I'm a hangry type person. I always make sure I'm fed because I can feel my energy, my blood pressure.
You're hangry.
Absolutely. But very aware of it. And again, it's, and I say time and time again, we never know what people are going through before they come through the door in the morning.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in life that when someone comes in, they may not say good morning, but we don't know what they did. The miracle could be they walked through the door. So again, that safe, non-judgmental language. And
not everyone can put a boundary that I'm coming and then I leave behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It could, I learned myself that, when I walked into a building, if I didn't smile, 75 people didn't smile back. So my state really affected other people. So neuro-linguistic program has taught me to be aware of how I show up. Not only for me, because every time I walk on site to a client, I'm a guest on site. So I need to be very accountable about what I walk in with and what I'm carrying.
Yes.
And again, what I love about the work we do is we help people, the teams, the managers create the culture that they want to work in. So facilitate them that journey of designing the culture and designing, mechanisms to deal with something if it comes up is absolutely brilliant, because people then feel safe to go, do you know what? That did kind of sit with me. And you usually tell the nonverbal speaks loud.
You are able to read the non-verbal.
Absolutely. But unheard feelings never die. And healing starts when we get heard. So again, I do a lot of exit interviews for my clients as well. And a lot of things that come up is I didn't feel value. I didn't feel heard. I said something, nothing was done about it. So again.
But these are the main needs.
Yeah.
And they create safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, if we're choosing to be in a company, you want it to be a nice experience. If you spend the majority of your week somewhere, let's create a lovely work environment. Yes, we're going to have our days where it's like any family, we're going to be dysfunctional at times, but at least we have the mechanisms to have healthy conversations. For me, conflict resolution is about having healthy conversations with both people or whatever parties. The intent is to get it resolved. So if that's your intention, everything then will lead towards that. And that we learn from that, and then it becomes, people want to have fun in work as well. We want to do our job. A motivated team work.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
But I think as well, I often say to people, every one of us in a workplace contribute to the culture and the environment. So negativity breeds. If we feed negativity, it will breed. So again,
oh yeah, absolutely.
We've got to be accountable for what we're enabling as well at times, and just take a step back and go, is that serving what we want well?
Did you ever come across with situations where you went in, you sense that the culture is toxic or off, and you managed to bring the change?
Yeah.
Or that's like what happens on a regular basis, I guess.
Oh yeah, you would. I mean, it's great when you, a lot of the time when you're brought in, it's already, there's a reason, which is great. And I think it's very courageous for any business owner or managers to bring in an external in, because sometimes you need that different voice, that different presence, and they're burnt out themselves. But yeah, you can go in and there's a lot of stuff not working. And again, that's the engagement, it's the communication, it's the designing, are we choosing to move forward? Are we going to, it's all a choice. Are we going to go forward, and let's design how we do that? You meet individual needs, you meet team needs, and through process and healing and choosing to let go. So sometimes you got to go, drawing a line in the sand. I'm choosing to let that go, because the choice is you can choose to hold on to it, or I can choose to let it go. This is a slide that I go through every time I'm doing training, and it is that if you choose to hold on to anything negative, angry, toxic, stressful, unforgiveness for more than 5 minutes at a time, it suppresses your immune system to up to 6 hours at a time.
Okay, yeah.
That slide, I have had more reaction to that piece of information, because as I say to people, it's a choice. And so forgiveness is a choice. But like that, and I often deal with people's triggers, as I call it, the red mist. They've literally gone from zero to outcome, which brings a consequence. But when we actually choose to take out something and go, am I holding on to it? Am I going to let it go? How is it serving me? And honestly, forgiveness is the key to letting things go. Now, can we justify why we choose to hold on to things? Absolutely. But a little bit of journaling and having a look at what you're holding on to is a nice bit of reflective work.
Yes,
and journaling is, we know the power of journaling.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's so much, brings so much light, shines like, turn it on the light.
Absolutely. But it also shows you, as I love the linguistic side of NLP, those 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. What am I actually saying to myself? How am I choosing to speak to myself? And if 80 to 90% of that talk is repetitive, I often say
subconsciously or unconsciously.
Yeah. So. And it's such a familiar voice, we don't hear it. So journaling actually shows you how you're speaking to yourself.
Exactly.
And most people are horrified because they don't hear it. But when we start to reframe that inner voice into positive intent, it brings, you see the miracles happening.
Oh, totally.
It's just, and that's why, when it comes to NLP, I love the power of change, in the sense I can choose to talk to myself like that, or I can choose not to. And, the mind is an interesting thing, and using the words I intend, I can, I will, I am, set you up for success, because your conscious and unconscious are now connected. So therefore you
Yes.
do. So even from goal setting, going, my intention is to do this, writing it down increases the chance of 80% of it happening. It holds you accountable. And in my 20 years of coaching, I'd love everyone to have a life coach. I think everyone needs that safe person to bring them and facilitate them through a journey of life.
Totally. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that I am not the best coach for my son, for example. I take my home environment, but I don't have that authority. As much as we are having a brilliant relationship and he trusts me and all that, but sometimes it needs an external. I didn't dig into the science of that and what's behind what's the explanation why we need an external, but definitely if I wasn't able to coach him, and if the very moment when I feel like I'm not able to coach him, I need to find, or he needs to, he will be kicked to find a
and my own daughters have done that. They've gone external. They would have a lot of my language because they've grown up in a very coaching world, and I see, they're, whether they realize or not, they do a lot of coaching with their peers and that as well. And he
does coaching with me, by the way. And I don't feel like
when they start using your language back to you, you're like, oh
yes,
But, they've had the wisdom to connect with different coaches and that in different periods of their life. So again, it is that facilitation of a journey. And I've had some fabulous, experiences in the 20 years I've coached, of just seeing, you meet someone and you just know where they could go. And then, I'm still in touch with people I coached 15, 16 years ago. And you see the businesses they've grown, how they've grown in their lives. And, it's the whole of them. It's the personal life. It's their, their travel. I remember I had a lovely young lady come to me, and the anxiety of leaving home to go to college. And I remember for the first 6 weeks, I met her on a Sunday evening when her mom dropped her off, just to work through all of that. And that young lady, and I knew what she was studying is probably what she wouldn't complete, and even in the first couple of sessions, but she completed her degree and did voluntary work in India, loads of charity work, has travelled the world, is excelling in her chosen art, and and it caterpillar to butterfly, and we're still in touch. And that is the honor of being a coach.
Yes. Exactly.
It's such a privilege. And that's my soul food, I have to say, especially if you're dealing with some of the, HR can sometimes be very heavy work in that. And that's why we would even have a lot of counselling as well through that, to make sure we're in a good state. But the coaching is it's soul food.
The HR it sounded to me very regulated and law-based, and my approach to HR, what I hear from you, it's very holistic.
It's, do you know what it is? I mean, yes, there's legislation, there's the employment law in Ireland is very much for the employee, which is fantastic. I have to say, the Citizens Advice website is amazing. The WRC website, again, loads of information in that. And legislation is changing all the time. Last year, we were one of the first countries in Ireland to bring in the Domestic Leave Act, which is the Domestic Violence Leave Act, which is fantastic. To see all of that happening in Ireland is brilliant. So it's constantly keeping up with the legislation in that. And again, if you're an employer, to keep up with all that stuff, so that we take that part. We ensure that they're compliant. We make sure they're audit ready if the WRC want to come in, and they can come in and walk into your business and audit, and you have legal obligations as an employer. So you get the foundation right and you build from there. But at the end of the day, if you're an employer, you're dealing with people's lives and careers, you're the livelihood, and you want that to be a really good journey. So as I said, it's about resourcing people. HR is human resources, it's resourcing the people.
Is there a connection between the HR and women? Because as since you started talking, I'm looking for an example of a HR man.
It's quite heavily male dominated in Ireland.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, especially in the consultancy field.
Okay, in the consultancy field, I agree probably. But when you are going in a company,
it's a combination. I definitely in the international, and the corporates, it would be a mix in that, and definitely I've come across that in the consultancy side of it as well. I got into HR, because I was chief of operations in HR and learned an awful lot about that. So I'm lifelong. I'm in college for decades.
Yes,
and I suppose the combination of what I do, for me, HR is the experience of the workplace, not just the legal side of it and that. But yeah, it is performance management is a big thing that we do, and again, that's down to the employer to make sure that people are going. It's a great tool to have communication and get someone's sense of how is their experience going? Are they meeting the needs of the role? How are they showing up in it? And again, you put in a framework around that. So it's all communication. It all comes down to communication and that.
So it's not necessarily women dominated.
No, I never I haven't really thought about it, but I'm kind of flashing back. When I was coming up through the 80s, 90s, it was very male dominated.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for some international companies and that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I would say, even saying that now, I've seen a lot of young females coming through in studying HR and that. But what I love about it is you can springboard into all different areas of HR.
I'm not trying to be on any part, but
I'm just trying to recall. I'd be probably more aware of that now going forward. But you can springboard off all different areas. HR generalist, you can get into the psychology side of it. It's
so vast.
It is, and it's a fabulous arena. Unfortunately, as soon as you say HR, people, depending on their experience of HR, I often get people saying to me, "You're actually nice," like me too. But the experience, even if you're dealing with a difficult conversation or a difficult thing, they'll come back and say, "Thank you, we're very respectful," and that's for me good feedback.
Yes.
I've showed up in the correct manner, and I think it's really important that, as I said, people feel valued and heard no matter what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Knowing you more than, like, here we had a previous conversation, how do you manage to pack so much in your day?
I'm an excellent time manager. And I probably do what I get all my clients to. I value my time. I value the 10, 15 minutes here and there. I spend a lot of time in my car because I do work on site. So I could do 1,000 kilometers a week. So my drive time is very valuable for, I suppose, reset my state. It's very much my car is my God time. I can put on Spirit Radio or my gospel music or listen to my Bible because, again, audio works very well for me. But I use a Filofax, and I'm an old-fashioned. When I write it down, I recall it better, my Filofax. But I'm very good at chunking down, my family time, my friends' time. My ministry is really very important to me. I'm involved in a beautiful church in Shannon with fabulous people. So there's a number of things I do. And having me time, I'm good at resetting and listening to myself and knowing when to hit the pause and to recharge. I am blessed with the husband I have, and my family are very, very supportive. So it took me a long time, as I evolved in that, even with friendships and that, I value the friends. I have diamonds in my life, and I'm very, very grateful. But I think as you get older and that, and what coaching taught me, I was 37 when I did my own coaching. I definitely feel the Lord used it for me to hit the pause and go, "You're existing, not living." And I had gone through a lot of life changes, and yourself when you do the wheel of life, mine was flat. There wasn't air in any of it. It was really flat. And I think the Lord just said, right, you either go this way or you go that way. And I started to do more work on myself as well. And really, I suppose, being still. There's a reason the Lord says, be still and know I'm God. And starting to design how I wanted to go forward. And yes, like I can still do 50, 60 hours some weeks, but it's a choice. And that's the difference of working for yourself. And it's valuing how you show up and being fully present and enjoying each part of your day. It's waking
Are
up with
there
gratitude.
moments when you are not fully present?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I suppose you check yourself as well.
So as much as you are God's child, you are not God.
Oh, absolutely. He's a good way of reminding me that, you need to hit the pause. But again, it's checking in with yourself. And I have beautiful daughters that are very direct with me, and they'll go, you need to hit the pause. They become as they get older, they're your accountability partners. And it is just valuing your time and how you show up in it. And, every day is a gift.
Do you think because you have such a strong faith and you see yourself as a God child, do you think that you respect that more, and that place, it's the motivation, what you are more paying attention to that?
I think so. I mean, I gave my life to the Lord when I was, I think, 10, going on 11. And there's a reason why the Lord says you need to be like a child to come unto me. And it is that simplicity of faith. And I treasure it because it's resolute and it is what it is. And it's the simplicity of the gospel is so powerful. I mean, he did it all on the cross. And I think when you have that, no matter, and trust me, I could write a book for every decade I've had in my life. There's been a lot of challenges, but no matter what the circumstances, light shines in darkness. And again, it goes back to that seed, a faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. And I've been down to my half a mustard seed at times, but he's always had me by the scruff of the neck. And, I've walked very closely with the Lord, and maybe not as close as I want. I've gone through my desert seasons and that, but I have to say, I don't know how people do life without faith. And we all are born with a measure of faith, is what we choose to do with it. He gave us a free will. And, at the end of the day, my eyes go up to him.
Yes. Yeah. So what your day looks like, if you want to share?
Usually have the alarm set for around 6. So I'm usually in the car about 7:30. My phone starts usually from 7:30. So my drive time as well can be cars. And I could be on site for a full day with a client or not. But I would say most of my days are 10 to 12 hours between driving and being on site. I have an amazing associate that is just literally a godsend. And I had the privilege of my daughter joining my business this May as well. So Chelsea is very much now managing me in terms of organising me in that. So I have, the Lord's putting the right people in my path to build my business. And Chelsea would be, and then I have Jessica who works part-time and doing my other daughter who helps me with social media. So I think my days are action-packed. I'm quite organised. So between emails, phone calls, and being on site, it is busy. Like my days are packed.
I can imagine.
They are packed. But it's even in them being busy, it's being in the right state. So it's being conscious that I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I'm building myself up. If I come out of a tough meeting, it's taking that couple of minutes to sit and be still and just let that go, or even doing some mind mapping or journaling just to clear my mind and just resetting again. And another slide I have in one of my presentations, it's not about the amount of hours we work, it's the state we are during how we feel during those hours. Yeah. So it's important to fill your cup, because if at the beginning of the day, we all wake up in the morning, the avalanche hits us. I need, I must have. And it's even changed in the dialogue. So my intention for the next half an hour is just to get up, get ready, be in the car. So I break it right down
So small chunks,
managing my state. And just, one of the reasons I did the breathwork coaching last weekend was I'm my best customer when it comes to my toolkit, but even to learn to, and I've often said to people, you're not breathing, but even from that course, I've learned I wasn't breathing the way that served me well. So again, it's just using your own toolkit as well and being gentle with yourself. As I say to people, rather than judge, we can be our own worst enemy, but approach yourself with gentle curiosity rather than judgment, and just be nice to you.
Yes.
And I think even as a woman, we're getting better at that.
Yeah.
Definitely get better at it. Yeah. And again, I go back to my mom. She was very good for making sure we looked after ourselves and that. And that we did fill our cup. So
That's great example to have.
Yeah, and I see my daughters are very good. They're very true to themselves. They're caregivers. They're beautiful values, but they're good at looking after themselves. And you look at them and you go, okay, that was
you did a great job.
But it's that learned behavior.
Yes, yeah,
you know, and it is that. But we're only
probably you never sat down with them to explain, but they saw you.
But they do. What do kids do? They look, when they come out of the womb, they cry to be lifted. What do they do to be lifted? They cry again. So they come out of the womb NLP experts. We kind of desensitize as we get older.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. I cannot agree more with that.
You see little kids mirroring the body language. Mom stands that way. Or even kids, when they come into you and they're looking for something, they look either at mom and dad and see who's the most approachable. They're going
and they read.
They do. They're going on the nonverbal. I mean, kids are fascinating to just observe when it comes to NLP because they're doing it naturally.
Yeah.
So, but behaviors are fascinating anyway.
The Bible says to become a child when is the best state.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some, and
it's nothing about being childish.
Yeah.
It's about
the simplicity of being a child. I remember walking through, actually, it was Crescent years ago, and there was this tall gentleman, and his little girl was right by his knee. And I remember I was just walking towards and caught my eye, and she just looked up and down at her dad, seeing how he was standing, and mirrored him precisely. And I was like, wow. And she literally stood back up and down and went, and just folded her arms the exact same way. And I thought, do we not influence our children?
Oh, big time.
That can be terrifying too.
Exactly. Because I'm looking at my own story, and I had a very challenging time in my life when Lucas was a child. And I see things he copied, and his, say, small trauma. Yeah. I'm able to identify. But I think if you're authentic with yourself and you see what you went through and you are aware, I think you have that moment of take the child and have authentic discussion, chat, and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know any better, and admit. Absolutely. I think that teaches them so much.
I totally agree. I would have gone through some challenging experiences, and my children would like that. I had to sit down with them, and there was times I apologized to them and went through different things and just was open, honest, and vulnerable, and they need to understand, and they do understand as they get older, you're only human as well. But it's so important to have that connection and to talk. One of my daughters, the car was it. We'd go for drives, and it was just that safe place because everyone's looking forward. So the cars are fantastic. And one of my other daughters then was very much, we'd go for a bite to eat. But it's having that space to connect. And it's also being open to their reflective feedback. And there was a time where myself and my husband, we actually remarried, but we divorced at one point, so we co-parented. And the best advice we were given back then was we did a parenting agreement and through family mediation. And and I have to say, we co-parented very well because it was all about the kids. And the agreement was fantastic because it dealt with any potential trigger subject. And it gave us a foundation. And the girls will tell you, like, they have a fabulous relationship with their dad, fabulous with me. And then, 12 and a half years later, we're back together. So it's,
that's quite a story, a journey.
Yeah, but even with that, us coming back together, it was very important how they felt about it. You have to have these conversations. It's your decisions impact your children's lives. And, obviously you take them, I remember actually I was seeking advice years ago when they were younger from a pastor because there was something I needed to discuss with them. And I remember saying, I'm not sure as to when. And he gave me lovely advice and he said, never give a child a suitcase that's too big to carry. And that was the answer I needed. I went, okay. So I knew as to when the time was right and that. And again, you have to be very sensitive to what they can cope with and that and what they can process. So it's age appropriate as well, obviously.
The only thing what I would say about that is, yes, it's very much wisdom and it's very much trust in God that you are getting to connect with the wisdom, the universal wisdom, with the divine wisdom. The world is going bananas now, wild and all that. But my experience was, I faced Lucas when he was 7,
Mm-hmm.
and he was exposed to something what I didn't want him to be exposed to, but because
Wow.
was no regulation, phones, social media, Wi-Fi was a very modern kind of, and was a pride that you have a mobile phone in school.
Okay.
So he was exposed to the internet
Okay.
we are talking 9 years ago. And I was blamed for having a nearly adult conversation with him after I saw that he saw what I considered myself inappropriate.
Yeah.
But the damage was done. And I said, if I don't step in, I might be in danger of someone else to give him an approach, what is not, or he picked something from someone. And since then I was very careful, like, do I have the tendency to give too much and consider that he's too adult, like small adult, or it's better to treat them as a small, because I'm a teacher and I did years of children psychology, and we were very strongly taught, treat them as a small adults. Now, in not overdoing it, but
there's wisdom. There is
don't
wisdom.
underappreciate their potential.
Yeah.
Because it can play the
well, I truly believe if we don't guide them, someone else will.
Yes, absolutely. That was mainly
if we don't teach them the values and ethics in the home, then who's going to? Because they'll come from somewhere. And, my mum raised us on her own. So, it was myself and my sister, and it was 10 years before my brother came along, and then 17 before my youngest brother. So as in the 70s, right, on your own, right, in Ireland, raising 2 girls, I mean, she was strict, and you knew
how she had to.
You look back, because there was no mobile phones, but if she said you're in at 10, you were in at 10. It wasn't 10. It was 10, and you knew it was 10. I could try and go into 5 to just be on the good books, but there was accountability if you didn't come in, and looking back, I mean, when you think of it, there's only 20 years between my mum. She was only in her 20s raising 2 young daughters, and she had gone through an awful lot herself. So, I mean, when I look back at it, she was way ahead of her time. But again, it's having the boundaries. This is what served me well. It's having open, honest, vulnerable conversations when I needed to, and it's applying wisdom, and it's ensuring their voice is heard as well. And that has served me well. And I'm only speaking about my own home, but it has served me well because, they're now in their mid-late 20s and they still want to spend time with us. They're, very much involved in our lives. And that is such an honor as a parent at this stage. And I'm so grateful they haven't emigrated yet. So grateful. But, it's just, to be a parent is such an honor.
Yes,
it is. Exactly. It's such an honor.
Such a gift.
Yeah, it is. And it's fun.
Yes, exactly.
It's fun.
It has to be.
Absolutely. Not so fun when they're mimicking me when they were younger. Let me do a mom on you. Yeah, they kind of, definitely, they have a great sense of humor. There's no hiding place. So they do remind you of the areas that you could have done a little bit better at times.
That's good to have the mirror in front of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But
and the wisdom to see the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that sometimes they get a bit of a fright. They can hear me in them, and they'll kind of go, oh my God, I'm turning into my mom.
Which is not bad.
No, it is. Like, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just want them to be happy and healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the main thing, and the main gift what you can give them.
And the other thing that they want to spend time with you. That's very important as well.
How do you deal with tough situations when I guess you are human and you have your own not as positive feelings as all our feelings, and they all serve us very well, but when you feel frustrated in your work at home,
I'm very honest with myself. If I'm having, again, I suppose it comes down to state management, but if I'm, I went through a very tough menopause where I went in one way and it was a transformation, mind, body and soul is the only way I could put it. So self-care and gentleness was really important because I was having feeling and being at times I felt I didn't even know myself anymore.
Mm.
It had such an impact. And I was very blessed that I had good advisors around me, and I really went into self-care. I had a good personal trainer, a great counselor, good friends, and talking really helped, because I felt at times I was losing it. I was like, who am I? Waking up at 3 a.m. going full of fear and anxiety, which was very unlike me. But on the day, even on the day to day, if I'm feeling low and I recognize it. And there's times, I firmly believe there's healing in tears.
Oh, yeah.
So again, anything we suppress is going to come out somewhere.
Exactly.
So my rule is have the makeup bag and have extra mascara with you if you need to do that. You're only you, even when you're dealing with tough stuff in the workplace and that, you're only human. You really kind of guard your heart and that as well, because things can trigger you. And you need to be able to signpost people as well, because you do, especially post-COVID, I've seen such a rise in mental unwellness and anxiety and stress. And there are times where you can just be there at the right time to be able to support someone. And I'm such a believer in companies having an employee assistance program that provides free access to confidential counselling, 24-hour helpline. So there's all of that. But when it comes to myself, it is that, that being present with yourself. And sometimes I just sit with myself. If I need something to just wash over me, I'll go with that. And there's times, I have some fabulous people I ring and go, I need 5 minutes. I just need to offload, or I need to pick me up.
That's exactly what I
have
remember.
Have your people. Have your people that just
Now that you said it, I remember our first time when we met, and you said that to me. I don't remember my state at the time. I don't think I was in a low or challenging state, but you said if you need someone to talk to, grab the phone and give me a shout. Just and it's so important.
Do you know what? It's that psychological safety. My Dorothy, who's my friend and my associate, just meets where I'm at, non-judgmental. I can show up in any state. And now I probably laugh more with her than anyone else because she's hysterically funny. And we probably laugh at the worst times possible. But have your people, know it and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Pick up the phone, because sometimes all you need is to be heard yourself. But
sometimes you said it there. Sometimes you need to hear yourself.
Yeah. I talk to myself out loud in the car all the time. I'm just praying people think I'm actually talking to someone on the phone. Now, I could be having a couple of rants with the Lord himself. But I do think, and the one thing I've learned about being self-employed, being a consultant is lonely.
Oh, yeah.
You're on your own all the time. You've got to learn how to high-five yourself. You've got to go, I got that contract, I got whatever. I'm good at doing that. Like I do my happy dance in the car if a client, I get a new client or there's a good outcome and things like that, because you've got to self-motivate, because there's no one else to do it for you.
Yeah.
But having core people, in your circle that you can just ring up and say, say something. I just need to connect, because you're constantly giving as a consultant, morning, noon and night. So your boundaries are very important, your self-care, but have your people.
Yeah, that's very important. Create the support. It's basically you are the one who creates that support.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is that being open, honest in front of them and going, do you know what, I'm having a bad day. And I remember I came out of a meeting there not so long ago, and I could feel how it impacted me. I felt rattled, and I was like, my judgment was like, what's going on with you? What are you doing? And I really had to go, okay, let's just unpack this. So I picked up the phone to Dorothy and said, can I talk this through with you? Because I don't know where I'm coming from. I couldn't unscramble. So I needed to hear my voice and get reflective feedback. And I come off the call a different person.
Yeah. And sometimes it only takes to hear yourself, like to just let it out and talk. And that's it.
I always go back to, we're only human. That's all.
And I think it's actually our strength. If we are doing that, it's not a weakness.
No, I think it takes a lot of courage to say, I just need a bit of support right now. I'm feeling low, or, I'm feeling vulnerable, or whatever it may be. And, the wisdom is, even in the work we do, I work with a fantastic employment advisor, a solicitor as well, because like that, things change all the time. It's having the right people around you. And now it took a long time throughout my business to get it right, but I have my go-tos. you know, and I have good business mentors as well, you know, that it's good sounding boards. And I like people that are very direct, that will go, Elaine, come on, no.
Okay.
You know,
so you value that.
I value that because I like to be challenged in my thinking. It gets me out of my head.
Yes.
You know,
you
know, and I always pray for the right people to come into my path personally and professionally. And
that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and the Lord has been very good. And I have found there are times where there's a reason for a season in friendships and professionalism, that people may be in your life for a season and may go again as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your beautiful conversation.
And thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. The time just flew.
Totally.
We covered a lot.
Absolutely, yes. But it flew, we said. Do you have a question for me?
Talk to me a little bit about yourself and the podcast and that, because I love your approach to it. It's been so easy and such a flow. And I love the fact that we just went with the conversation. So we covered so many topics. So what made you decide to get into doing this?
So I have my faith, as you know, and I feel like I can only excel in where I meet my gifts or where the gifts meet the purpose.
Okay.
And I was never afraid of radio and putting myself out there. And my main bachelor degree is communication and public relations.
Okay.
So probably
makes sense. Makes sense. I learn something about you every time I speak to you. I'm like, oh, so impressed.
That's and I felt like I could not find a better qualification for me. The podcasting was such a out there thing for me. But when things aligned and I paid attention to signals, I didn't think much about it. It came very natural. Yeah. My main intention is to bring people who are afraid of putting themselves out there.
So thank you.
And I see myself, I choose very carefully my guests. And what I want this podcast to be a podcast that is bringing people who are not big names out there, but I know they have big things. They do extraordinary. And they're ordinary and they don't see themselves. Usually they're afraid to see themselves, kind of. I see more in them. That it's probably the coach in me. Yeah. Seeing the potential. But I love that every single conversation it goes to show me that I was right. Not that I'm looking for that, but yes, they brought
confirmation.
Yes, exactly, confirmation. So look, I was very honest now.
No, I appreciate that. And look, it's been an absolute honor today. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to even know you even a little bit more, because every time I encounter you, I get another layer of you. So yeah, I'm very pleased that you've come across my path.
Thank you. Thank you so much.